Hi, I'm Frank Williams, and welcome to SuccessToday.tv. And as always, I'm joined by my two very good friends, Tom Roman and Rich Goldberg. And today, guys, we're going to talk about charisma and enthusiasm and how that relates to goal setting, success, and leadership. And Tom, if you would, just tell our viewers a little bit about charisma. What is charisma?
Well, charisma and enthusiasm, this is a book. I mean, we could probably write a book on this, is what I'm trying to say. But it's a topic that a lot of people wonder about. You meet people sometimes in life, and they have an effect on you. So what was that magic little spirit, or what did they have inside of them that made them, really effervescent, almost like having a spring in your step, right? And it was said of Ben Franklin, actually, when he was in his 80s, or 70s or 80s, whenever he right before his death, he still had a spring in his step. So the whole concept is that it's not something that goes away with age. It's not something that ever goes away if you want it in your life. And it's one of the main topics that we're going to get into a little later today about how, not only charisma in general, but also how charisma relates to where it comes from, which to me, I believe it comes from a faith that your life is on a path of success. And the way that happens, again, is goal setting, right? Through this. And I think it's been said, I just re-listened to Brian Tracy's book on goal setting, which is an awesome book. And he says that he interviewed a bunch of executives, very successful executives, and one of the things that one of the executives says, the most successful person in that group said was, success is goal setting, all else is commentary. So the idea that that's the reality of it. And with goal setting, with a clear plan of action, with that in your life, that side of your life organized, literally you are so excited about life that when someone asks you, how are you doing? Hey, I'm doing great. Why? Because my life is certain that I'm going to be successful. So that is one of the first things that I want to do with our show today is convey that idea that enthusiasm is not just something that's magic that just comes out of nowhere, that like, hey, some people have it, some people don't. Well, some people might have it, but the idea is that if you want it, and you want it for real, and you want it to really make an effect on people's lives and your own life, set your goals and go out there, and you will see it just develop naturally. Rich?
I'd just like to initially say, have a shout out to my good friend in South America, Luz Mara, Uruguay.
I like it.
We got an email from her today, didn't we?
Yes, we did. So
Very
I just
good.
wanted to start with that. When I think of the word charisma, I think of Frank Williams, I think of Thomas Roman, and you can also throw in some luminaries, Martin Luther King, John F. Kennedy, Warren Beatty. What is it about these people when they walk into a room, they have superb karma, aura, a presence. Charisma to me is, again, the essence of being singular, being original. You're endemic in your movements, and as Thomas mentioned, there's a clarity of thought and a certainty about your intentions and your activities that just is very, very enthusiastic. I once had a business venture where I might as well tell a story once in a while too. I do enough of that. That I had to go to a disc jockey situation, and it was in Nebraska, of all places. Not to denigrate any of our Omaha friends, great steaks you have there. So when you have enthusiasm, you're in a new business venture, all of a sudden you have a person, they flew into New Jersey, and they said, it's very nice to meet you. This is very exciting to be here. I am overwhelmed. So needless to say, when you have a consistency of an aura, you're not enthusiastic, you're not ebullient, you're not effervescent, which is also known as the 3 E's. You have a consistency of emotion. So you can't, that's not enthusiastic, that's just a mixed signal and a very deceptive one that they were very enthusiastic, but their essence didn't reflect that. So there wasn't the internal exuberance that should have been there to make them enthusiastic to come halfway across the country for this venture. And it was just a very deceptive kind of thing. So it has to be sincere, has to be heartfelt, and it has to be earnest for it to kick in.
Very good. In order to have that enthusiasm and that passion, you have to really feel good about yourself. And what is that? That's confidence. And when I coach people, 2 things I tell them that they want to try and do is to develop that confidence is, 1, set higher standards for yourself and go after those challenges. And the other thing, believe it or not, is the way we dress. If we dress good, we feel good. And that brings out the confidence in us. And it also, when you feel good, you bring that out, and people actually see that. So take the way you dress up a notch too.
Mm-hmm. Very good point, Frank. And he's right on that too, because it is. The physiology does lead to psychology, right. And when you feel good about yourself, and that also includes working out, and obviously we already discussed that, but a variety of benefits to being in good shape physically. Also the things you eat, which also affect your blood chemistry and the way your mind works.
Right.
And but frankly also the way your hormones are released, which is a big part of goal setting, which I want to get back to, because I taught a course last week at a university. And I asked the room of people, it was about 30 people, seniors in college, wonderful group of people, but I asked them, I said, how many people in here have a clear written set of goals? And first thing I asked the class, literally, I walked in, I asked them to move to the front of the room, because you learn better from the front of the room, and I said, how many people here have a clear list of goals? Not one person raised their hand out of about 30 college seniors, which to me was very alarming. And again, to get the mission, again, of what we're trying to do here is help people, we're all going to face critics in life, and it's great because we were discussing this before. You meet some people in life that you speak to, and they bring you up, and that's a charismatic person. They want you to ascend and to become better and do more, right? But then you meet people in your life that literally are just these laissez-faire type of, hey, you talk to them, they either disassociate, throw you a dirty brick, say something rude to you. They're actually a critic.
Is that misery loves company?
Exactly, and the idea is that when you're on a path of success, is you're going to find these critics, and you guys know my opinion on critics. Mm-hmm. Again, if someone hasn't achieved what I wanted to achieve in my life, their opinion really means nothing to me, and and I say that with certainty, and I say these things very deliberately now, as opposed to being a little more timid about them like I used to be. But now I see the truth of that, and that very critic may hold you back from taking the initial steps, like the first stair on the staircase, as Martin Luther King Jr. said, right? Funny he said that. But and also I think Rich Goldberg is on my list of charismatic individuals too. I'll tell you that, Rich, right now.
You were just pulled over for impaired judgment.
That's true. But that critic may be a person that holds you back from taking that first step. And that's why you very clearly have to identify and see if that person has done. And again, people are successful in different venues. Financial success is different than family success. And you may have a couple different mentors in your life, a couple different people with whom you surround yourself. But be sure that you surround yourself who are enthusiastic or charismatic about the thing about which you want to be successful. You understand? So that's another thing I want to say as well. Rich?
As Frank just mentioned, with the raising of standards, highest standards, I happen to be a tennis aficionado, and they just had the U.S. Open. So the #1 ranked player in the world is Rafael Nadal, affectionately known as Rafa. He's #1, and yet he still has the drive, determination, and talent to apply his God-given talents to a higher level, and he's already #1. So he just developed a serve that was more powerful by 10 miles an hour, because he's always striving to, if he's not already at his best, which again you can't measure, you can always take it to the next level and an even higher level. So now he's even more of a complete player, and he's already been #1, or he is #1 now. So even when you're at your best, you're always striving to do even better, even when you're #1. Isn't that amazing?
Very good point, absolutely. Very good, inspiring.
And charisma, guys, is really believing in who you are as an individual. Mm-hmm. And if you realize that you have the capabilities, you have the skills within you to create greatness, I mean, your life could change in an instant. Mm-hmm. So if you haven't developed that yet, the one thing I would tell you is stop spending your life believing that you cannot accomplish something. You can. It just takes time. It's a slow process, but if you build it up, you start believing in yourself.
Very true, Frank. And Frank is right. And the way I'm telling you, this is the key to the game. It's funny because we talked about the void a little bit before. We're actually working on some projects right now, but we're brainstorming before. But about the void that most people live in, and this is where most people get out of work and there's no plan on the table. There's no stack of projects that they're going to work on. They're going to go to this project first, then this one, and not touch the second one until the first one is finished. Most people don't have that order in their life. And I don't know if I said it last week, but like Jim Rohn said in his goal-setting book, because we're listening to all these now, re-listening to them, so our lecturers use all that information in the best possible light, so we can give the best lectures. He said most people, if you've ever been to Space Mountain at Disneyland, he says that's the inside of a disorganized person's mind. You don't know where you're going, you don't know what's going to take you where, and you just jerked all around. That's the way that a disorganized person's mind is, and with disorganization comes a lack of enthusiasm. See, because with disorganization, you don't know where you're going, and what happens is, without goal setting, without this type of methodical planning, you really have no certainty in your life that you're going to reach a better destination than you were at yesterday. And I can't say this enough. People ask me sometimes, say, where's your charisma come from and stuff like that. I'm like, and people ask me, this is a big delineation I made before I even knew why it worked. Now I understand why it works, but I read a book called Wealth Building Through Real Estate by a guy named Russ Whitney about, I don't know, maybe 7-8 years ago. It was right at the time when I started going on the media fast, right? And one of the things he says in that book was, he's not a big, motivation type of guy, but he said, when people ask me how I'm doing, I say I'm doing great. And the funny part is that through our goal setting, he says, and again, it just works because people look at you now in a different way, right? But regardless of how things are going, but it's like almost a lie at first. Then all of a sudden it becomes true. So now your voice, the psychology is not leading the physiology, leading the other things in your life. But when you set goals and you have a plan to reach them, when you have a certain path to getting to a place, and that place, it may be jet skiing in the ocean on a weekend, it may be going mountain climbing, it may be having a successful business venture or a successful family. But when you know that your goal will be reached eventually, and you're progressively realizing that goal every day, you are successful. That's the bottom line. And that right there, the byproduct of this, is the charisma, is the enthusiasm, is the zest and the zeal and your desire to just drink life up and not waste 1 second. Without it, you're like a ship in the sea with no rudder. And any storm, anything that comes by will just take you with it, whichever direction goes. Whichever friend calls you and says, hey, you want to go out to the bar? Hey, you want to go do this? You want to go do that? Yeah, if it's a weekend, you can be spontaneous. That's great. But during the week, you got to be on your plan. And literally, your time to work on your goals, I take that time as serious as in which if I were meeting with a client, the biggest client, a multi-million-dollar prospect. Because that's how important the time is to me, and I use the same thing. Sometimes friends say to me, hey, Tom, you want to go out? I say, no, I have an appointment. And they're like, with who? I say, myself. I'm like, well, that's a new concept. Why? Because on my calendar, I have blocked out 7 to 9 p.m. that night to work on a particular project. And if I don't get it done, and this is one of the things that Wallace Waddell says in his book, The Science of Getting Rich, is that sometimes if you don't, the smallest thing can take you over the fence to unleashing the floodgates, opening the floodgates. And sometimes that small thing may take 2 hours to do, or an hour to do, or a half hour, or 2 minutes to do, right? But we have a mental block where we just don't dedicate the time to it. And that small thing, if you don't do it, it holds you on this side of the fence where the floodgates can't open. But if you do that little thing, literally the floodgates open up, and all of a sudden you're in this whole new rush of opportunity. Kind of like an example of taking the step to register for a course theoretically. It takes 2 minutes to do it maybe online. You register for it, you enter your credit card number, maybe 5 minutes. All of a sudden you're taking this course, and that could enter you into a whole new flow of life. But if you didn't just take that step, that semester goes by, and then all of a sudden life happens and you get busy. But if you make that step, it really does happen. So that's another thing I want to say is that with goals, that and a clear course of action for what you want to accomplish, that's where life opens up these juices, where you start really having charisma, having enthusiasm. Rich?
When I think of leadership, I see across the board in politics, in sports, as a coach, or the corporate world. Politics, you drive the message home, and with your minions, not minions, but your followers, you get tremendous amount of votes. And as a result of their leadership, their policies, and how they recognize, reward, and come to your aid in giving back to their followers. In sports, how many times do you hear about a player's coach? He'll run through the wall for a person, for the coach, because of the way he treats you and recognizes you in a positive way. How about in the corporate world? Somebody will be putting in 10, 12 hours on the job because you're a terrific leader, you show respect, and you give back to the person. So you see across the board, when you're talking leadership and you're talking charisma, there is that nexus, there is that connection, and because they are wonderfully positive in their attributes, a lot comes back the other way.
Interesting, yeah.
Very good. Far too often, when it comes to goals and people don't achieve the goals they want, unfortunately, far too often, many people allow the negative words and opinions of others to actually kill their dreams and hopes before they even take root, before they even have a chance to thrive. Mm-hmm. So if you're one of those people that gets affected by what other people say, you have to make that decision and say, enough is enough. It's your life, and you choose how to live it. So, buckle down, have a passion for what you want to achieve, and go after it, regardless of what other people say.
Yeah, and I want to comment on that again. I touched on this very briefly before, but we all are so vulnerable when it comes to goal setting because it's almost like they're our dreams. They're the most delicate things you could possibly have. Picture a seed in the ground. if you planted it, would you go dig it up next week? You know, see if it's growing yet. Of course not. You'd water it, you'd send it, you know, positive vibes, you know, whatever you think, put some Miracle-Gro on it, you know, sit by it, read a book, I don't know. But the idea is that you wouldn't go dig it up. And the same thing is true with those dreams. At first, a goal starts as a dream, an idea that you have, and it's everyone's are different. You know, I have different goals. We all have our different. You know, sometimes we meet up and discuss our long-term objectives, and you know, we talk about them. They're all different. You know, that's one of the things about our desires exercise. But if you share that with someone, sometimes they might have, you know, be again that critic. Okay, and I say that because the world seems to be full of them. You watch the news, and everyone's talking badly about other people. And the real thing to objectively look at, and this is how I gauge this. I'm not kidding. It took me years to get this, and it has unleashed a whole realm of confidence in myself and simply business successes that never would have materialize if I didn't try many things. Success is directly proportional to trying. And all those businesses that I went through personally that didn't fare as I thought they would, and be very successful, but that led to my business acumen, my business skills. And now I'm very good at taking ideas, assessing them, making sure that there is an addressable market, developing a niche, you know, doing the whole, you know, realm of things that have to be done in order to do it. And to launch it successfully for both myself and for clients. I've done it hundreds of times for clients, but several times, obviously, myself as well. But the idea is that if I didn't go through those early ones, I never would have gotten to the successful ones, right? And the idea, it's imperative that you look at the people who are saying something about you, or saying something about your idea, or something about your business. See if they succeeded in that vertical. If they didn't, literally, you have to like almost laugh it off. And it's funny because you got to realize 97% of people out there statistically, okay? And it was evident, that was evidenced by the course I taught the other night where none of these people have set their goals. And this is like seniors in college, pretty like literally, if you looked at that population, if someone that's going to graduate university, they're in probably the top 5% of the whole global population. They're like at the upper echelon of education. And, you know, we all have that opportunity, literally, you know, to pursue it, right? There's a lot of online options as well now. But the idea is that if that upper echelon of, you know, education doesn't have goal setting, then, and these people are not motivated. That's why I hear people that are very educated with, you know, quote unquote book smarts and college degrees that are very unhappy, unfulfilled. They don't have any charisma. You'll see some people sometimes, and you might have a, you know, maybe a professor or a doctor you go to or an attorney, literally, who just literally you feel like they're the Walking Dead. You know, to use like one of your terms. You know what I mean? Like seriously, but it's like, and you meet them. I'm sure you've met people like that. You know, but the idea is that is a lack of goals, and those people are not going to be good sources of motivation or an influence on you, which is why it's imperative to hang out with people who support your dreams and to really block out any cross currents that can come with it. And again, getting back to it, the only place you can do that is in your present condition. So right now, today, do your best in the job you have. Be that person with goals. Be that person, and let the goals translate in your business life and to your personal life. Let that translate into an emotion inside of you that's excitement. And that excitement, when people ask how you're doing, with that excitement of becoming the person that has already achieved those goals on the inside, let that manifest itself in charisma and enthusiasm. And you'll see a whole different way people, you know, see you. And like we were talking before, Frank had he was in the hospital for something a little while ago. And what did they say about you, Frank?
I was in an auto accident, and when I was taken to the emergency room, originally they thought I had broken my neck. And the nurse came in, and she said, "Mr. Williams, you're very fortunate. At first we thought you broke your neck." She said, "You just have a very bad case of whiplash." And then she looked at me and she said, "You win hands down." And I said, "Win what?" She said, "The whole staff outside just voted you the most positive individual that has come through this emergency room in years." So, and she thanked me. She said, "Thank you for making us smile, even if it was just for a couple of seconds."
Yeah.
So it was very nice. It was very nice.
And that's the thing, and you don't realize, and you see people like yourself that come along, and people like Rich, you know, and some other people we hang out with, but it's like, the idea is become that person. And this is the whole thing. It's like, and it's funny because we have a lot of people give a lot of feedback, and of course we're giving a show, and
despite that, we're still on the air.
That's right. Despite that, yeah. But the idea is, and it's funny, but the idea is that everyone has something to say. Is it perfect? Nothing's ever perfect. Okay, it's the bottom line. It will never be perfect. Okay, but the idea is,
we would
that
settle for massively imperfect.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I learned this lesson from actually a general actually in Washington D.C. He said you have to work on imperfect information. It's the way you have to. You have to make those moves. But the same thing in life. When you have a project or a goal, you can't let something, just a little imperfection, you know, stop you. You have to make that move. then you get it out there, you critique and you get feedback, and et cetera, et cetera. But again, even the feedback you get, if it's not from a Hollywood producer, I'm being honest here, okay? If you have George Lucas send me feedback and was like, hey, you can do this, this, and this better, than us, okay? I would take that very seriously. But what you do is you turn normal people that are just viewers into critics, into people that are like now critiquing, right? And it takes them out of the education and entertainment mode and puts them into the critic mode, which takes the whole focus off of the message that's coming off the show, because they start looking at the critical factors. So the idea is that even in this show, we take that same perspective. Unless someone has, and the whole idea is to get a good message out there. In this world, what seems to be a very toxic media is that our whole goal is to give a great form of media that if you watch it, we hope there's some nuggets of information here throughout our discussions that are good and that can influence your life. But B, just to be a place you can go to actually feel good and be like, hey, listen, there are people out there that really do want to contribute and they want to do good, as opposed to love the good and to encourage people, rather than to always complain and to hate the bad, which is a whole reverse thinking psychology, which frankly has its own. You impress on your mind, what it is you want to see, not the things you don't want to see. That's the key to the game we were trying to say last week. So, but that being said, it's important, to only focus with people, stay with people that are going to believe in your dreams.
George just emailed me. He said in the past 3 weeks we haven't picked up any of his tips or corrected them. So we're beyond that. So he's not going to be writing us anymore.
Maybe one in my spam box. I'll have to check it.
Yeah. There's a phrase, "What's in it for me?" There's also another phrase, "What's in it for you?" So again, a lot of times as a leader, you don't want to carry on a monologue. You want to have a dialogue. You want to have a give and take. You want to have feedback. You want to have constructive criticism, even if it's taken destructively, which on occasion it is. But you want that communication. You want it to be conveyed of any deficiencies or any things you can do better. And everybody wants to improve. And again, you need to have the skin of a rhino. Mm-hmm. How's that sound?
That's right. Props to our boy
Inside joke there.
Scott Alexander, Rhinos for Success.
That you need to toughen up and be able to take it. Well, relatively mature. I'll exclude myself from that category.
Oh, you're the head runner. Come on. Wearing gray and everything.
So, again, for leadership purposes, you want to have that feedback and the two-way communication. It's not all about just the one person who's at the head of the class or whatever. It's the other rest of the class, the rest of the group, the rest of the team to make it more effective and to have a greater impact.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely right. Absolutely right.
Very good. Very good. For those of you who might be thinking about goals and haven't started yet, I'd like to tell you 3 things. Quit waiting for perfection, quit waiting for somebody to notice you, and quit waiting for a better horoscope. Just buckle down, plant your feet to the floor, and go after the life you deserve. You're going to make mistakes, but that's how you become a better person, a stronger person. But you will reach your goals, and you will create a life you never thought possible. Guys, we just got a couple of seconds before we have to go. Any final comments?
I have one more final comment. And this is something that I said last week when I had the people in the class. I said, you know what? If the only person you have to blame about your lack of success is looking at you in the mirror every day. So just remember that too. You're the only person that is to blame. Rich?
Very true.
Take yourself lightly, take others seriously, take your job seriously, take your ventures seriously, but loosen up and lighten up on yourself.
Excellent, guys. Very good show. We want to thank all the viewers for the emails we've received. They've been excellent. If you have any topics or any comments, again, Tom, if you would just tell our viewers where they can reach us.
Sure. It's info, I-N-F-O, at successtoday.tv.
Great, guys. Good job. On behalf of Tom Roman and Rich Goldberg, I'm Frank Williams. Thank you so much for being with us. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.
Thank you very much.